Hey there, students and teachers. Tom Ritchie here with David Wind, the CEO and founder of Peergrade. All right, Peergrade's a company that nice enough to send me a mug and something that I've been using in my classes. I teach AP US History and AP European History, and one of the features of this class, of course, and one of the most intensive things for teachers as far as the time that we spend in our classrooms, outside of that is grading, okay? And how do we simplify grading and how do we make sure that students receive feedback regularly, even if we don't have time personally to grade every single assignment? How do we improve that while saving ourselves some time? And I have found that Peergrade, which is at peergrade.io, I've done a few of these hangouts with albert.io. I seem to like these IO address companies. So, but remember peergrade.io. And I'm here with David, and David is in Denmark. You can see my hair is still a little bit wet. It's the beginning of the day here. I'm streaming at 8 a.m., which is not my usual time to stream, but that is because Peergrade is headquartered in Denmark. And now we're going to hear from David. David, tell me a little bit about how Peergrade came about, and what your goals were and what this has grown into.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me here. Peergrade started about 3 years ago. So I teach myself. I teach computer science in a university in Copenhagen, Denmark. And the class I was teaching suddenly grew from 20 students to 150. And 150 students is just a lot more than 20, as people know. And with 150 students, my grading work got to almost 1,000 pages a week. And 1,000 pages a week is not meaningful, right? There's no way for anybody to give meaningful feedback to students with that many students. So all my colleagues were saying I should do multiple choice exams, but that's not very fun. And it's very hard to make interesting questions that are open-ended and so on with multiple choice. So instead, I started working on Peergrade myself. And the core idea is that students submit some kind of work. It could be an essay, it could be a quiz, anything, a video. And then each student anonymously gives feedback to the submissions by other students. So this way they have to read other people's work, they have to think about it, they have to understand it, and then they have to critique it in a meaningful way to not just allow me to spend my time on anything else than grading, but also to learn a lot from the process of reviewing each other's work. So that's the essence of Peergrade and how it came about. I think
yeah, and so David, what I'm hearing from you is that you wanted something not only to save yourself time, but also to give people meaningful feedback. Now, that is pretty cool, too. I've been using this for LEQs in my AP US and European history classes, but wasn't thinking about, wow, this can even be used for projects like submitting videos and people giving feedback for that. Okay, so let me go ahead and give a little picture of how I've personally used Peergrade. And David, feel free to direct me as I'm going through here. They were nice enough to anonymize one of my classes for me, so I'm able to show y'all some real student submissions without actually compromising my students' names. So many thanks to Pamela at Peergrade for making that happen for me. So let's go in here. And what we did here is we had an LEQ on the American Revolution. Now, when I first created my class, I had it divided actually into two groups, I believe, in that class. So you can see your submissions, how many people gave feedback, and also we see here a grade distribution here. Now, we can see where they've got this. All right. So then we can see now this, I need to tell y'all that they have introduced live sessions for Peergrade. Okay. So this was initially for people that are submitting homework. And so you see the submission open, submission closed, feedback open, feedback closed. It's actually a good bit easier now to do these live sessions. So when students are actually transcribing their work and then putting it in, and they can start giving feedback immediately. So this assignment was actually given before that feature was available. And so what we can do here is we can design rubrics. And so So for the AP US History and also European and World History LEQ rubrics, we can see here, does the essay have sufficient contextualization? Thesis, are there at least 2 examples of valid historical evidence? Does it support the thesis if there is evidence? And then the historical reasoning and complex understanding. And then, of course, we have a lot of customized settings. You can say whether you want people to be able to submit late. You can okay those things and all of that. And then you can even, wow, they even anonymize the email addresses. This is great. And then students can also flag feedback. So a student who's receiving feedback and they believe that this feedback was not helpful, the teacher needs to take a look at that and figure that out, make a judgment call. Students can do that. So it's kind of an appeals process already built in. And so when I go here to results, I can see here, I can look at the submission here. And so the student submitted their essay here about the American Revolution. And you can see here where it's not just peer grading, but the teacher can also score the essay as well. So when we see here, okay, so this is, we can see how I had this set up. You can set up the number of students that you want to give feedback. So I can say that I want every student to submit an assignment, and then I want them to give feedback to or score their own essay. Because the other thing is, I think what's really valuable to students in these AP history classes is when we can see, does this student have a clue as to what the rubric says? Are they able to evaluate their own work and the work of other people using the rubric? So this is a great way for me to be able to see, do I have people in the class that don't even know the expectations? So, and I'm not really able to do that with conventional paper grading. So I don't have this kind of trail to see that, okay, this student really didn't have a clue what was going on, and I need to educate this student a little more about what's on the rubric. Or maybe this student is weak on their writing, but at least they know what their weaknesses are. And so people can go through here and respond. So they can put comments. You can say as part of your assignment that your students need to give a comment saying that if it doesn't have sufficient contextualization, why not? And so I can see here that a student is asking, what do you mean when you say there was a domino effect here? Let's go into a little bit more detail there. Okay, so does it have a valid thesis? And then does it have valid historical evidence? So on and so forth. So on and so forth. Now, the other thing I can do here, you can see Ashley Goodman said that if you are going into the evidence, I want you to list the evidence. So I want you to go into here and I want to see what it is you're counting as evidence, and is someone just counting evidence, for name dropping, or do they really know what the strongest evidence was? So I think that comment feature is also great. And so we can see here what students are doing, and then I go back to the overview and I can grade the other one. So just because it's called peer grade, remember that a teacher can grade these essays. Okay, so I go back to the class. Okay, so a teacher can also grade these essays as well. But I have found this super convenient, and of course that is a big selling point for me. Okay, yeah, hide submissions, what I was looking for. You can go into the whole class here, and you can see what these scores look like, who seems to be doing well. And also another thing that peer grade does is you can see, okay, so this student, when I look here, this student obviously wrote a strong essay. I can tell that before even going in. And you can see here that my score was kind of in the middle of where some of the other scores were, but still a pretty strong essay there. But you can also see, okay, when I go to if I go to this one here, then we see, okay, there's somebody at 81%, and another, my score there was 45%. So a lot of students were being a little too generous there. Whereas again, I'm kind of in the middle middle of these scores. So I get so much information about my students. And so I've been talking about really the convenience for AP history teachers, and I'm sure AP teachers or any teacher of a subject that requires students to write can benefit from this as far as convenience. Now, David, of course, convenience wouldn't really mean anything if this didn't result in more student learning. So that's something I'm gonna hand to you. What is it that your product does that not only makes this more convenient for teachers, but also results in more learning for students?
It's a good question. I think one of the core theses that we work with is that it's this old phenomenon, right? That you learn a little bit from listening and reading. You learn more by doing. And the thing that teaches you the most is when you have to teach other people, right? So like giving feedback, teaching others, it's an extremely important way to learn. And when you're one teacher to, let's say, 30 students, it's very, very hard to organize ways where every student gets to teach. Because it just gets very complex, right? You have to send everybody to the blackboard. You have to organize groups and these kind of things. So what we try to make easy is how do we put the students in the teacher's position in an organized way? Also in a way where after the session, you as a teacher, you get all the results. As you can say, you showed in the demo, right? That you can go in and see what did each student do, how did it go, who disagrees, and those kind of things. So that's very important for us. And then you also mentioned that this doesn't have to be an essay. I think an interesting history example I've heard is a history teacher wanted his students to read some work, some sources over the weekend. And then when they came in on Monday, they were supposed to have a good discussion about these different sources. And the problem was that it was a bit tricky to get all the students to really read and reflect before Monday. A lot of students kind of forgot to do it. So what he did instead is that he said, go and read the sources and then go to Peergrade and just submit one paragraph, just 2 or 3 lines about why do you think he did this speech, for example. And then after you've submitted your own reflection, you just read a few other reflections. And then you came in on Monday, you've read the sources, you've made your own reflection before talking to anybody else anonymously. And then you've seen other people's ideas also anonymously. So you don't have to be worried about any kind of somebody looking bad at you, but you have this kind of idea going into the Monday discussion that you already know a few different ideas and you're off to a better start. So I think that's an example of a different use case specifically about history.
Okay, and I like that, and I think even if a teacher has concerns about if students are doing this outside of class, are they really getting are they really putting that in there or something? I mean, this could even be done at the beginning of class if a teacher has a live session, like, let me just do this real quick, not really as a quiz, but just as something to where I can already see right off, okay, what is as these things are coming in. So that can even be used for some document analysis and discussions and stuff like that. So the thing is that Peergrade, it wasn't built just for one subject, just for one type of assignment. And so it's the platform set up so that teachers can use it very creatively. Now, there are also some ready-made rubrics there for some things, but of course, I just put the stuff in there myself. So all kinds of customization that's available there. Now, David, I would expect with all these features that the cost of this website would be prohibitive for teachers, but then I don't think that's necessarily the case. I'm really blown away by what y'all are able to put out there at some affordable prices. So I'll let you go ahead and share the screen, David, and kind of go over what features are available for free and then your other levels of service.
Yeah, and while I do that, I just wanted to mention that I think AP is one of the things we see the most on Peergrade, because I think one of the important things when you're doing AP level is that you have to not just train students to remember, you have to train them to think critically about arguments and think about evidence. And these kind of things are very hard to train. And peer feedback is one of the most effective ways to do that. And we do have, I think, almost 1,000 AP rubrics lying in Peergrade already that you can go and steal and get inspired from. So I think I managed to share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see everything.
Cool. So as you mentioned, we have a free plan, and then we have two plans that are called Basic and Pro, which include some more features. But everything, almost everything you've talked about so far is available in the free plan. And that's what we would recommend teachers to start with. We don't want to try to sell people anything if they don't like it and if they don't need it. So almost like most features are available in the free plan. In the basic plan, what we have is the ability to remove anonymity. So the default is anonymity is on, and then self-evaluation as you had in your class. And then there is group submissions, so having students submit as groups. And then in the Pro plan, we can do, this is mostly for universities, where you can integrate with a learning management system like Canvas. And then you can put weights on the rubric and do a thing we call categories, where you can customize a little bit more who's giving feedback to whom. But I think definitely start with the free plan. And when you sign up, you automatically get 1 month for free of the Pro plan, so you can see what it's like and if it's something for you. But that's not where you want to start in the beginning.
Okay, well that's excellent. Okay, and it looks like the business model enables your company's got also institutional. Now can you actually go back real quick and just show off that institutional plan, because some teachers may be interested in getting their school to pay for this, so that may be a possibility.
That's what we like the most. We don't want to take teachers hard-earned money. We think it's better if the school buys a license, because that also enables the price to be a lot lower, so we don't have to pay for the same students multiple times. So what we see a lot of schools do is that they buy a basic plan for the school, which is $2 per student per year for the entire school. And that gives all the teachers the basic plan, but also allows things like teachers can share rubrics within the school that they create, which is something a lot of people care a lot about.
All right. Well, excellent. Okay, so good. I just wanted to make sure that all of those options are out there, and of course, yeah. I mean, it looks like the teacher plans are priced so that teachers can purchase it themselves, or if they have school money to do that, they can do that as well. But I really like seeing the not only the usefulness of this product, the convenience, the way it can help students. One thing that you said that really stuck with me is allowing students to become the teacher and giving them more opportunities than really would be available in the classroom setting. So it's improved that experience. And on top of that, so many free features. So what I've seen here is that if you're planning on the student submitting and giving feedback anonymously and using that rubric, that's something somebody doesn't have to pay anything for. Now, it looked like the self-evaluation was on the basic $2 a student plan. So, but this is just a great product, and I wanted to share this, and actually just a shout out to Mr. Rose's students, because I was messaging with him the other night, and he said, "Hey, you got to check out this site, peergrade.io." And I said, "Oh, well, I'm actually going to be chatting with the CEO, in a couple days." So that was awesome to hear from another teacher how useful this product is. So, David, again, thank you for joining me this morning. And are there any other remarks that you want to make on the way out?
No, I think I got the most important things across. I think one of the things about teaching interventions is that you can have some that are very easy to make and some that require a lot of cost from you, and then you can have low effect and high effect. And the best teaching method is one-to-one tutoring, right? That's very hard to beat. So what we really think peer feedback is able to do is that at a relatively low cost for you as a person, like you don't have to spend a lot of time on it, it can have a very dramatic effect. And I think that's the types of interventions you want to make in your class.
All right. Well, David, thank you very much for joining us. And again, ladies and gentlemen, peergrade.io, and they've got a lot of features that start off absolutely free. And thank you very much, David, for joining us and for telling us a little bit about your product. It's always a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen.